Have you ever wondered if children can see things that adults can't? They say that the little ones have a pure perception, not yet shaped by the conventions of society, a vision that can see beyond the masks that all of us adults we use in everyday life. This story will make you question everything you believe about coincidences and destiny. The silence in the New York court was sharp, broken only by the occasional sound of a scribbling pen or a contained whisper. In the center of the room, sitting among his adoptive parents, Sofia Reynolds seemed too small to understand the severity of the moment. His big and expressive eyes were fixed on Jack Morrison, a 35-year-old former police officer who remained motionless on the defendant's bench. Michael Reynolds, an impeccable corporate lawyer, discreetly held her daughter's hand. Beside him, Emma, his wife-teacher, took a deep breath, trying to maintain the composure. The tension was palpable, like an invisible fabric straight to break. When Sofia lifted her index finger pointing straight to Jack Morrison, a murmur toured the room. The judge cleared throat, trying to restore the order. "The girl wants to say something?" he asked, breaking the protocol. The story began years earlier on an apparently common day of patrolling on the streets of New York. Jack Morrison was then a young policeman full of ambition, but with a controversial history. Rumors of unconventional methods and frequently questionable ethical limits surrounded him. Sofia, then just 2 years old, had been adopted by the Reynolds after a delicate process. Michael and Emma always knew that something in their adoption history was different. There were inexplicable gaps, incomplete documents, unveiled secrets. The girl seemed to have an inexplicable connection with the past. His children's designs often contained details that went beyond the understanding of a child of his age. New York, specific streets, car plates, conversation fragments that should not make sense to someone so young. In court, Jack Morrison kept an impassive expression, but a muscle in his jaw jumped occasionally, betraying an inner tension. His eyes, however, were fixed in Sofia, as if an ancient memory struggled to emerge. Emma held a folder with adoption documents, her white fingers from squeezing the paper so much. Michael whispered discreetly with a colleague lawyer, exchanging significant looks. Sofia kept pointing, her trembling but determined finger. It was not a gesture of fear, but of recognition. Something in her eyes suggested that she knew much more than she could express with words. The judge looked at the girl, then Jack, then again to the girl. Something didn't fit. Why did a 4-year-old seem to have so much specific interest in that former policeman? One detail caught the eye. On the evidence table, a partially obscured photograph. Fragments of a scene that seemed to connect all those characters in a way that was not yet clear. The truth was there, hidden in layers of silence and secrets, and Sofia seemed to be the only one who could start to unravel it. "He knows," Sofia murmured, breaking silence with surprising clarity for a child of her age. What would happen in the next moments would forever change the lives of all present there. Reynolds were not an ordinary family, even for New York standards. Michael, with his history of corporate lawyer, was used to unraveling mysteries in the smallest detail. Emma, teacher of children's psychology, brought a unique sensitivity to family dynamics. Sofia's adoption had been a complex process. Fragmented documents, incomplete information, a web of mysteries that involved its origin. Michael always kept his calm, but internally he was obsessed with finding the complete truth about his daughter's story. Jack Morrison represented more than a simple former policeman. His career had been a roller coaster of hits and scandals. Bravery on 3 occasions, he had also faced internal investigations into methods considered controversial. His resignation from the police force had not just been a career ending, but a dramatic fall. Sofia, in turn, showed a surprising ability for details. His memory was not typical for a 4-year-old. Drawings, seemingly random comments, a peculiar fixation in certain details that would normally go unnoticed by adults. In court, each character carried a layer of secrets. Michael Reynolds. His calculating gaze hid a deep concern. Something about Sofia had disturbed him for years. Confidential documents hidden in your folder suggested investigations beyond the adoption process. Emma Reynolds. Her training in psychology made her observe every movement of Sofia. There was something different in his daughter. It was not just a curious child, but someone who seemed to carry a knowledge beyond his age. Jack Morrison. His eyes revealed more than his neutral expression. A heavy past consumed him, and Sofia's presence seemed to trigger suppressed memories. Photography on the evidence table was increasingly important. Partially covered, it revealed fragments of a scene. A building, a car, shadows of people. Something that connected them all in a way not yet understood. Sofia drew compulsively during the audience. His pencil of color moved with almost surgical accuracy. Streets, car plates, partially sketched faces. Each drawing seemed to be a piece of a larger puzzle. One detail caught the eye. Sofia's drawings were not typical of a 4-year-old child. There was precision, perspective, details that suggested an impossible knowledge for someone of their age. The judge watched everything with increasing perplexity. Something was about to be revealed. Something that went far beyond a simple judicial case. "He was there," Sofia murmured again, his finger still pointing to Jack Morrison. The tension in the room was palpable. Each breath, each movement seemed meaningful. What did Sofia know? How could a 4-year-old child have such specific information? The tension in the court reached its maximum point. Sofia kept pointing to Jack Morrison, her fixed eyes with an intensity that challenged the understanding of any present adult. "Says Sofia," Emma whispered, lightly squeezing her daughter's hand. "What do you see?" Jack Morrison began to show the first signs of restlessness. His impassive posture cracked as a porcelain under pressure. A muscle in his temple pulsed, revealing an internal agitation that struggled to remain hidden. Jack's defense lawyer was trying to intervene. "Gentlemen, a child cannot be considered a valid witness." But Judge Matthew Harrison, known for his investigative curiosity, interrupted. "Let the girl speak." Sofia quickly drew something in the drawing block. It was the silhouette of a building, accurate, almost architectural. Michael Reynolds immediately acknowledged the former police deposit at 45th Street, a place abandoned for years. Confidential documents began to be arranged on the table. Michael Reynolds organized them methodically, revealing a complex web of information. Incomplete reports, adoption records with missing pages, partially torn photographs. Jack Morrison started sweating. It was no longer the confident policeman, but someone cornered with memories that struggled to keep buried. "You knew my true mother," said Sofia, her childish voice contrasting with the loaded statement. A sepulchral silence took over the court. Emma looked at Michael, a look of deep understanding passing between them. Something extraordinary was about to be revealed. Jack Morrison finally broke the silence. "This is impossible." Sofia then drew something that froze the blood of all. The detailed representation of a scene that could only have been seen by someone present at the exact moment of a crime. Flashbacks began to emerge. Jack Morrison in an operation years ago. A case involving children's trafficking, compromising documents, an abruptly interrupted investigation. "What is your real name?" the judge asked Sofia. "Before being Sofia Reynolds," replied the girl, "I called me Maria Santos," a name that triggered a chain reaction in court. Jack Morrison stuffed completely. Michael Reynolds got up, opening a dossier. "Excellence, we have evidence that connects the defendant Jack Morrison to a case of unresolved children's kidnapping for 5 years. The photograph on the evidence table has gained a new dimension. It was a partial image of a baby, Sofia, in a context that mixed police elements and something much darker." Jack Morrison muttered, "She shouldn't be here." Sofia answered, her strangely ripe voice, "But I am." The conflict was established. It was no longer just a judicial case. It was the revelation of a secret that connected past, present, and a child who seemed to carry memories that challenged human understanding. While the main case unfolded, other layers of complexity began to emerge. Michael Reynolds was not just a successful lawyer. He had deep connections with internal police investigation departments. Emma discovered in her psychological research files a rare pattern: children with traumatic memories who developed extraordinary cognitive abilities. Would Sofia be an extreme example of this phenomenon? The records obtained by Michael revealed an intricate web. Jack Morrison had worked in a secret operation 5 years earlier, involving an international children's trafficking network. Multiple police officers were removed during the investigation. Key documents had mysteriously disappeared. Sofia kept drawing, every feature revealing increasingly specific details. They were not only children's designs, but almost a map of fragmented memories. At the bottom of the room, a man discreetly dressed in a dark suit watched. Detective Frank Rodriguez, retired, had investigated the original case with Jack Morrison. His presence was not coincidence. Revelations began to emerge. Sofia's biological mother, Maria Santos, was connected to a case of a complaint against a network of traffickers. Jack Morrison had been the police officer responsible for an investigation that should protect her. Something had been terribly wrong in that operation. Emma noticed something peculiar in Sofia's drawings. Repeated symbols, almost like a code. His training in children's psychology indicated that they were not random scribbles, but a form of communication. Michael started connecting the points. Reynolds were not a common adoption family. His choice for adopting Sofia had deeper motivations than they seemed initially. "She's not just a victim," Michael murmured to Emma. "She is a witness." Jack Morrison began to realize that Sofia carried information that could destroy entire careers, including her. His past reached him in a way he never imagined. Detective Rodriguez approached Michael discreetly, passing a confidential file, something that could completely change the course of the investigation. Sofia looked straight at Jack Morrison and said something that froze the court. "You saved me that night, but also let me go." A phrase that seemed impossible for a 4-year-old child. A revelation that suggested memories far beyond his age. Sofia's drawings now formed a complex mosaic. Each image was a piece of a larger puzzle, revealing fragments of a story that few fully understood. Judge Matthew Harrison watched, fascinated. Never in his 30 years of career had seen something similar. Suddenly, a yellowish envelope fell on the judge's table. No one saw who delivered him. Frank Rodriguez immediately acknowledged the role, official documents of the original case that had been supposedly destroyed. "It changes everything," Michael Reynolds whispered. The documents revealed a secret operation that went far beyond what anyone imagined. Jack Morrison was not just a police officer, but part of a special child protection unit at risk of international trafficking networks. Sofia stopped drawing. Her eyes, once fixed on Jack Morrison, now aimed at a distant point, as if she revived suppressed memories. "They wanted to take me," said Sofia, her strangely neutral voice. "But you hid me." The child's statement caused a chain reaction. Jack Morrison, hitherto impassive, began to tremble visibly. The documents revealed shocking details. Maria Santos, Sofia's biological mother, was a crucial informant against a children's trafficking network. Jack Morrison had created a secret plan to protect the child. Multiple police officers were committed to the criminal network. Emma Reynolds, with her training in psychology, realized something extraordinary. Sofia was not just a witness, but a key element of an operation that could dismantle an entire criminal organization. Detective Rodriguez approached the judge, whispering something that made Matthew Harrison's expression change completely. Suddenly, the spotlight was no longer in Jack Morrison, but in a complex corruption network that extended far beyond a simple case of adoption or police investigation. Sofia then designed something that left all paralyzed: the diagram of a criminal network, with such accurate names and connections that it seemed impossible to have been made by a child. "How do you know this?" asked Michael Reynolds, for the first time losing his usual composure. Sofia just smiled. A smile that was not a 4-year-old, but something much deeper and scary. Jack Morrison finally broke the silence. "She has a genetic memory," he said, revealing an unbelievable scientific secret. The Reynolds exchanged a look. They knew. They always knew that Sofia was different. The judge interrupted. "Explain yourself, Mr. Morrison." The truth was beginning to emerge. Sofia was not just a child. It was the result of a complex operation of protection, with cognitive abilities that challenged human understanding. A document falls to the floor. An old photograph shows Maria Santos, the biological mother of Sofia, in an advanced research laboratory. "Genetic memory is not fiction," explained Rodriguez. "It is a more complex scientific reality than we imagine." Sofia continued to draw, every feature revealing more than words could express. The court has become a cauldron of emotions and revelations. Jack Morrison's statement about genetic memory had created a whirlwind of reactions. Michael Reynolds discreetly activated a contact in the Justice Department. Emma held Sofia with almost instinctive protection. Jack Morrison, in turn, seemed to have aged 10 years in minutes. Detective Rodriguez began to organize the evidence. Each document, each Sofia design formed a complex puzzle that went far beyond a simple judicial case. Immediate reactions. Defense lawyers went into shock. Reporters started sending frantic messages to their editors. Justice officers exchanged significant glances. Sofia remained impassive. His drawings now formed a complex map of criminal connections that stretched by multiple jurisdictions. "She is not just a witness," Rodriguez murmured to the judge. "It is a living intelligence feature." Confidential documents began to be revealed. Genetic experiments of transferred memory, secret protection program for informants' connections between government agencies and criminal networks. Jack Morrison finally began to tell his story. As part of a special unit, he had developed a radical method of protection for witnesses. Sofia was not just protected. It was the result of an experimental project that mixed genetics, memory, and witness protection. Emma Reynolds, with her training in psychology, perceived something extraordinary. Sofia processed information in a way that challenged any current scientific understanding. Judge Matthew Harrison faced the most complex dilemma of his career: how to judge a case that went far beyond traditional legal limits. Michael Reynolds activated his connections. Confidential links to government offices began to be made. The case was about to become much larger than a simple judgment. Sofia then drew what seemed to be a code: numbers, symbols, connections that suggested knowledge beyond their age. "She knows too much," one investigator whispered to another. Jack Morrison approached Sofia. For the first time, a glow of genuine emotion crossed his hardened face. "You survived," he said, almost in a whisper. The Reynolds exchanged a look. They had adopted Sofia knowing that she was much more than an ordinary child. But the complete extension of this more was still being revealed. Rodriguez organized the evidence. Each drawing, each document, every statement of Sofia formed a mosaic that could overthrow an entire criminal network. The courtroom has become an epicenter of scientific and emotional revelations. Sofia, sitting among her foster parents, represented much more than a simple child. Was the result of years of experimentation, protection, and resilience. Michael Reynolds activated a network of contacts that went beyond the judicial system. Confidential documents began to be shared on safe channels, revealing the true extent of the project that created Sofia. The method of genetic memory developed by Jack Morrison was revolutionary. It was not just about transferring information, but in an advanced form of protection of vulnerable witnesses. Emma, with her expertise in psychology, began documenting each reaction of Sofia. The girl was not just a victim or a witness, but a human being with extraordinary information processing capabilities. Revelations began to emerge. Sofia carried genetic memories of her biological mother. Your brain had been prepared to retain crucial information. Each drawing was actually a method of decoding complex memories. Jack Morrison explained the process. "We developed a technique of preserving critical memories in children who witnessed serious crimes." Sofia is the first successful case. Detective Rodriguez confirmed. She can overthrow an entire criminal network with what she knows. Sofia began to draw again. This time, his drawings revealed a progression: memories organizing, information connecting like a giant puzzle. Michael Reynolds noticed something fundamental. His daughter was not just a foster child, but a national security feature. The transformation was visible. Sofia passed from victim to the protagonist. Their children's drawings became research maps. His genetic memory was beginning to be understood. Judge Matthew Harrison faced the most complex challenge of his career: how to judge someone who was simultaneously witness, victim, and investigative appeal. Jack Morrison, for the first time, showed vulnerability. "She represents our chance to protect other children," he said, his voice, laden voice. The documents revealed a shocking truth. Sofia was the result of years of secret research, designed to protect children exposed to complex criminal networks. Emma Reynolds hugged Sofia, understanding that her daughter was much more than they imagined. It was not just an adopted child, but an extraordinary being for a unique purpose. "You're special," Emma whispered, "not for what you did to you, but what you will choose to be." Sofia smiled, a smile that went beyond its 4 years, loaded with understanding and determination. Michael activated his government contacts. Sofia's case would be much larger than a simple judgment. It represented a revolution in the way to protect vulnerable witnesses. Each drawing, each memory, each fragment of information gained a new meaning. Sofia was not a victim, but a survivor. It was not just a witness, but a bridge between past and justice. The courtroom has become a strategic operations center. Sofia, sitting among her parents, was now the focus of an investigation that transcended the traditional limits of justice. Detective Rodriguez began organizing Sofia's drawings on a large panel. Each image revealed layers of a complex investigation. Names, places, criminal connections that extended for years. "This is no longer just one case," Rodriguez said softly. "It is a criminal network dismantling operation." Jack Morrison approached the panel, recognizing elements of old investigations. Each Sofia drawing was like a piece of a strategic puzzle, revealing connections that had remained hidden for years. Confidential documents showed international trafficking routes, names of committed agents, connections between criminal organizations. Michael Reynolds activated a network of contacts in multiple government agencies. Sofia's case had become something much bigger than anyone could imagine. Emma, with her training in psychology, began to document Sofia's cognitive process. The girl was not just a witness, but a resource of living and dynamic intelligence. Sofia continued to draw, her movements revealing almost surgical accuracy. Each trait was a revelation, each line a strategic connection. Judge Matthew Harrison summoned a reserved meeting. Only key people could participate. Detective Rodriguez, Jack Morrison, Michael and Emma Reynolds, representatives of federal agencies. "We need to protect Sofia," Rodriguez said. "She has information that can overthrow multiple criminal organizations." Jack Morrison then revealed the true purpose of the Genetic Memory Project: to create a form of protection for children of serious crimes, allowing them to preserve crucial information without traditional trauma. Sofia looked straight at Jack. "They come," she said simply. A sepulchral silence took over the room. How could a 4-year-old know something like this? Michael Reynolds activated maximum security protocols. Safe lines were established, tactical units prepared for any eventuality. Sofia's drawings began to reveal something more, not just the past but possible future movements of criminal organizations. "She's not just a witness," Rodriguez murmured. "It is a living intelligence system." Emma hugged Sofia, realizing the magnitude of what was happening. His daughter was no longer just a foster child, but a key piece in a much larger game. Jack Morrison then understood the true range of the project. Sofia represented the future of witness protection, a revolutionary method that combined genetics, memory, and protection. Exactly at 23:47, everything changed. A train of black vehicles surrounded the court. Hooded agents began to converge, creating a security perimeter that resembled a war zone. "They are here," Sofia whispered, her strangely calm voice. Michael Reynolds immediately called the maximum safety protocols. Emma embraced Sofia, her calculated and accurate movements. Jack Morrison drew an unregulated weapon. "No one will touch the child," he said. Sofia's drawings came to life. Each previously done trait now revealed itself as a precise strategic map. Input points of invaders' escape routes. Tactical positioning of agents. Detective Rodriguez began to give orders. "This is no longer a judicial case. It is a rescue operation." A black helicopter emerged in the sky, cutting the silence of New York's night. Frenchmen positioned themselves on adjacent roofs. Sofia then designed a complex symbol. When Rodriguez saw him, he stuck. "It is the internal code of the organization," he said. "Something that only existed in ultra-secret files." Jack Morrison confirmed. "She not only knows the code, she has changed it." The invaders began to enter. They were not ordinary criminals, but agents of an international organization with connections in multiple government agencies. "They want to erase all the tracks," said Sofia, her voice revealing a knowledge beyond her age. Michael activated secret communicators. Cryptographed lines began to transmit information into codes that even the invaders would understand. The battle in court became a confrontation of intelligences. Sofia and her drawings, Jack Morrison and his police experience, Rodriguez and his network of contacts, the Reynolds and their family protection. A Sofia device began to issue signals, codes, information, digital tracks that could dismantle the entire criminal organization. "My memory is my gun," said Sofia. The invaders advanced, but each movement was already foreseen in the girl's drawings. Jack Morrison positioned himself as a human shield. "No one will get close to her," he said. Emma Reynolds whispered to Sofia, "Show who you are." And then something extraordinary happened. Sofia's drawings gained movement. They were no longer roll but holographic projections that revealed each movement of the invaders. Rodriguez began to coordinate the counter case. "Use the girl's information," he shouted. Sofia smiled. A smile that was not a child but from someone who knew exactly what he was doing. The confrontation reached the apex. It was no longer about protecting a witness. It was about preventing an international criminal network from continuing to operate. When the dust came down, the court looked like a silent battlefield. Neutralized bodies, scattered documents, and in the center of everything, Sofia Reynolds remained intact. His drawings had foreseen each movement, every strategy of the invaders. Michael and Emma exchanged a look of unbelief and pride. His daughter was not just special, it was unique. Jack Morrison, injured but alive, approached Sofia. "You saved not only yourself but dozens of other children who could be victims." Rodriguez began to organize the evidence. The recovered documents were sufficient to dismantle an international criminal network that had been operating for decades. Sofia didn't speak. His eyes contained a wisdom that went far beyond his 4 years. Official reports would later classify the event as a special protection operation, hiding the most extraordinary details. But the truth was simple. A 4-year-old had done what dozens of federal agents did not get in years of investigation. Genetic memory was no longer a theory. It was a proven reality. Jack Morrison would later be secretly decorated. His theory on preserving memories in witness children had not only been validated but revolutionary. The Reynolds officially adopted Sofia, knowing that their daughter was much more than anyone could imagine. "She will choose her way," Emma told Michael. "Our function is to protect it." Sofia was still drawing, always drawing. If you are enjoying our stories, subscribe to the channel, comment, and leave your like. Don't miss this story that is going on the screen. I'm sure you will like it. Until the next video.